Good morning, everybody. Today is going to be an after-action report on the Harley Benton review. Because, of course, there's a lot of people had a lot of questions about some stuff. And I figured I would just kind of address some of that stuff because it was very interesting. And there's really no way... It's actually really interesting. I learned a lot. And there's really no way to put it all in a review. So I just figured we'll just talk about it this morning. The biggest concern I think people got is, and maybe I didn't state it clearly, this probably is my fault. I'll take responsibility for this. That some folks were like, if the guitar is that bad, then why are you recommending it as a modding platform? I don't. I wouldn't. The thing is that no matter what you recommend with this guitar, the Harley Benton cult is still gonna do it anyway. And I guess, I don't really, but I kind of, just to give them some grace a little bit, okay, it is fun to take a guitar apart and put it back together and do that stuff. If your goal is to just learn how to do that, then maybe that guitar is a good one to do it with. Are you going to have a good playable result in the end? 50-50 shot, you don't. I would say don't. I would say don't buy any of these guitars for $300. I wouldn't buy any of them. I wouldn't buy any of these. And I know that there's going to be people get in the comments and be like, well, what about Firefly? What about this? What about that? Well, you guys, they all are built on the same concept. They're built on making a guitar-shaped thing as cheaply as possible for people who want to be as cheap as possible. Well, what about new guitar players? They can't afford anything. I'm broke. I can't afford anything. Okay, as you're responding to me on your $1,000 iPhone, tell me again how you can't afford it. I mean, people want stuff and they make it happen. And I get that sometimes that doesn't work. I get it. But there are other options than these things that are much better. And this stuff is just garbage. It's just garbage. Like on the elemental level of how the thing is built, it's just garbage. I don't get it. I don't get I get why people are drawn to them, mostly because influencers have gotten 10% of sales or 5. Is it 5 or 8? Maybe it's 8% of sales, because I get those emails all the time, to try to push these things. Now, we should say, I bought this thing with my own money. Harley Benton doesn't, maybe they know I exist now, but they didn't know then. And so it's not a cherry-picked guitar. It's none of that stuff because I just bought it. That thing, and I didn't sign up for anything. I will tell you right now, in fact, I just looked yesterday that my unboxing video for that guitar has made $54. Okay. So and it's got thousands of views. So I'm very much in the red on this thing. There was no financial gain in doing it. It was pure curiosity. I wouldn't buy a guitar and cut it in half if I didn't want to really know. The whole wood stability thing to me is very, very important. And people cannot get this through their heads, because when you hear quality of wood, immediately tone wood's not real. Like they get into this whole, but when you construct anything, right? If you go build a garage, okay, and you go pick out your own lumber to build a garage or a fence, you will sort through that stuff and find the straightest stuff there is. Well, why is it straight or not straight? It's because it's kiln dried wood, and either it's been kiln dried properly or it hasn't. And you pick the straight stuff that's not going to warp so your fence doesn't look like this in a year, right? Guitars are much more demanding than that. If they move a couple of thousandths, we feel it. So we're not talking about a fence. Now, I've put a guitar on a fence before. That's a whole nother story. But that's the thing, man. Like, this stuff has to work, and it has to be consistent. Well, I don't see basically people talking about me bad mouthing Harley Benton because I don't do this to a Gibson or a Squier or a PRS. Well, I don't have to. It'd be interesting to do it with a Squier, actually, and I may do that. Don't need to do it with a PRS or a Gibson or a Fender, and here's why. I know the guy that buys the wood for those companies. It's very easy to have conversations and understand what the standards are. That's where I got them. I call them and I go, hey, dude, what's the standard at this company or that company, or how they choose their wood? 5 to 7% humidity, dryness. That's way drier. That's way drier. Okay, cool. At that point, that guitar has been so dried out that there's no. Now you still have to control humidity and stuff around it. But it's very, very important for the entire life of the guitar. I've talked about this before on videos. My PRSs, I never have to touch them, ever. Why? And why don't I have to cut a PRS apart? Because PRS is very transparent about their product, and they're very transparent about their processes. When you watch one of their factory videos, they show you this is where we get the wood. First of all, we're very serious about where the wood comes from and how good it is when we get it. Then when we get it, we sort through it by hand. And then we have these big ovens that take up hundreds of square feet of space that they have to pay for, and the electricity to do it and the manpower to do it and all that. And they spend all this time making sure that the product is stable. And then the way their factory is arranged so that guitars can take, is it 1 or 2 weeks? I don't remember that specifically, as the guitars sit, as they go through, so that they continue to be acclimated and they're to that moisture percentage and all that stays stable the entire time the guitar is made. If you don't do that and you put the guitar together and one piece moves more than the other, you have a crooked guitar, and that's what we have here. And I know for sure that my guitar is not unique in this. I know that Harley Benton is not unique in this because it's a factory. Well, they can make thousands of them. Oh, yeah. Which means in, an 8-hour day, if that batch of wood, how many thousands of them are out there that are bad? Lots. Let's talk about the humbucker being out of phase. Since when can one pickup be out of phase with itself? It takes 2 separate pickups, each with a magnet, to make it out of phase. Okay, well, you don't know how a humbucker works. There's 2 pickups in there, and there's a magnet in there, and it's got one polarity on one side and one polarity on the other. And if you wire that wrong, it can be out of phase with itself. That's how that works. And it was bad. It was not good. The frets were okay. To be honest with you, the fretwork on the guitar was probably its strong suit, actually, if we're to be really fair about this thing. The finish was really good. There was no buffing spots and no problems and stuff like that. The finish was very, very good. It felt like a toy, but it was very good, really good. So I would give it credit there. And then the other thing I would give it credit for is the fretwork was actually really good. The high frets were not because of high frets. The high frets were because I had a few areas. But as the neck changed, so did the frets. And you could actually see, you could put a straight edge across the frets. And I fret rockered it a couple of times. And this is how I know it was moving, because I fret rockered it, I don't know, 3 or 4 times or something over the couple weeks that I've had the guitar. and it would change, but you could tell that it wasn't the frets themselves. Because when you fret rocker it and you go, oh, I have a high fret, and then you put a notched straight edge on it, a Stumac machined one, not a cheap one off of Amazon, put a machined straight edge on it, then the high and low frets would match where the fretboard was. So it was actually, you could tell it was a fretboard, and not the frets. The frets were actually really good. The dressing on the ends was really good, except for how they smashed them into the binding and cracked the finish and all that. I wouldn't, that's stupid, but it was really good. Okay, now the other thing I want to talk about is the wood itself. So, and this is really my main issue with the thing, to be honest with you. I think everything else could be kind of worked around. You know what I mean? But on a fundamental level, this guitar is flawed. And that is the fact that the wood is not good. It's not good, okay? It's moranti wood. Moranti is an Asian Pacific or Southeast Asian wood that is used for, and this is why I made the joke on Facebook about the doors. It's used for like trim. So you know how like cheap, like if you go and like trim out your door in your bedroom, how cheap that wood is. So they use it over there for, they use it for lumber. They use it for like for building house. They use it for wood, for trimming out your house, interior cabinetry, core for plywood, and like window frames and stuff like that. So it's not a quality wood at all. And you can tell, in fact, Brianne is not like a wood expert or anything, but she's done a bunch of sanding, and she came around the corner and she's like, what is with this wood? And I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, well, even the way the blade comes through it smears it. It doesn't cut it cleanly. It like smears it. It's weird. And so we were kind of playing around with it, and the way it like chips out of there, like with a pocket knife. Like when you've handled, mahogany and poplar and alder and ash, you just kind of get a feel for what this stuff. She's like, it's like cardboard. It's like particle board almost. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly the problem. And the problem with it is that this wood is specifically very low density. And as a result of that, they tell you don't use it on anything outside. Don't expose it to any humidity. And it shrinks like 8 to, what did I read about this? Relatively high shrinkage and warpage rate, and contracts significantly when moisture values fluctuate. And it said that it is way more unstable. I did a bunch of reading on this last night. Way more unstable than mahogany. But it's cheap. So basically, they're making this thing out of trash so that they can keep the price down, which they need to do to sell a $300 guitar. It's just not a good guitar, guys. I mean, and you can say, okay, well, I got a good one. And I'm happy for you if you did. I would hate to see anybody spend their money, and I genuinely mean this. If I don't want you to have a bad guitar, but don't buy one of these, And if you already have one, and it's good, and you got it where you want it, great. That's awesome. I'm not saying anything. Here's the thing. Let's really dive into this. If you have one of these, or 15, and you like them, good. That's great. We want that. That everybody wants that. I want that. You want that. We all want that, right? Genuinely, we all want that. But the problem then is not the actual guitar, because your guitar is good. The problem is the inconsistency. And what that does is that creates bad value for others. So if you recommend this guitar to a beginner, you are taking a shot in the dark whether they get a good experience or not, which is not nice of you, to be honest with you. I would never do that to one of my friends. I don't know why you would do that to one of your friends. After that, the problem now becomes all of these owners of Harley Benton guitars that literally have formed this cult. Like, the only difference between this cult and any other cult is, like, I don't know, the leader's not trying to have sex with your wife. There is that, so we don't have that. But I'm just saying, it's crazy. There's people in the comments that are like, you did this wrong. This is wrong. Like, you're lying about this wood. Like, I mean, I'm like, guys, I bought equipment to test this. How much plainer can we get that these guitars are just a cheap guitar? It is just a cheap guitar. It does not deserve any reverence. It does not deserve the cult following that it has. I understand why. I get why. Because people are like that. My issue, actually, is not with the guitar itself, because it's very easy, right? I don't have issues with products, really. It's the guitar itself is just a guitar, right? It's very inconsistent, and no, I would not recommend it. But it's the people that's the problem. It's the people that like them that are the problem, because they are spreading this cult. I don't understand. That's the part I don't understand. I understand the guitar, and I understand the person who's like, yeah, I want to take it apart and put it back together. You know, kind of treat it like a kit guitar. It makes sense. It's an easy way to get $300. You can get all the parts to a guitar. That's pretty neat. Okay, that I get that. Okay, and you may have varying results when doing that. But the whole just as good as thing, and I gig with this 5 nights a week, and oh my God, you're lying. Whatever. Maybe you do it. I'm not going to call you a liar. I don't want to call you a liar. But if I show up at a gig and you aren't playing your Harley Benton, you're just full of crap. I mean, everybody knows if you're a reasonable person, if you are a reasonable human being, everybody knows that a $300 guitar has made major compromises to even exist. And that a $500 guitar, Zeba, hey, Zeba, a $500 guitar has made less compromises. An $800 guitar has made less compromises, and so on. And people will say, well, diminishing returns, etc. We did a video on diminishing returns. I get it. I understand. But there are not diminishing returns between $300, $500, and $800. Well, I played an $800 guitar, and this was just as... No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. And I can give you, like, quantifiable, scientific reasons why that is not true. Like moisture of the wood when the guitar is constructed. It takes time and it takes money to make a stable instrument. Well, I got a Mexican Strat and it had fret sprout. Okay, well, let's dive into that a little bit. Do you live in Phoenix? How long was the guitar hanging in the store, right? Was the retailer responsible with the care of the instrument while it was in his care? We could really dive into all of that. It's very simple. But you don't have any of that stuff with the Harley Benton. It just shows up in the mail and it is what it is. And then especially where we live, it's just not a good value because, I mean, I lost automatically $158 when I bought the guitar, whether it was good or not. So, I don't get it. Don't buy one of these things. I tried to be as fair as I could about this thing. Honestly, I really wanted it to be good. I was hoping that we were actually going to put pickups in it, because like a lot of people would say, well, you sell pickups for a living. It would be, yeah, it would be awesome. I would have loved that guitar to be good, because then we would have probably done a Harley Benton build video with it, which I said I would never do. But trying to be open minded, I'm like, I'm going to get one of these. If it's good, it's good, and I'll say it's good. And it wasn't. It just wasn't.